Before you begin raising your "God hates weeaboos" picket signs in front of me, let me clarify that just because someone's onto Japanese culture doesn't mean that he should be classified as a weeaboo. Then again, just because someone eats a garden salad doesn't mean that he works for the IVU or ALF. Anyways, that's the reason why I decided to jail animal liberationists back in nation states. So without further ado, let's begin reviewing two mangoes. Rest assured that I finally get to read a hard copy paperback manga after 3 or 5 fucking years, because the last physical manga I've read and owned back then was Manga Messiah, a manga about the book of Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. Whatever the fuck you prefer between the 4, I'm going to stick with the first because reading the other 4 would be summarized as here's 4 exact same servings of 2 pieces fried chicken, each made by 4 different carinderias. 50 pesos please. Unfortunately, that hard copy I mentioned is in fact Feng Shui Academy, a manga about a young teenage boy studying in a high school of Chinese folk religion on steroids located in a version of planet Earth where Japanese demons from another realm exist, and how they barely did any effect on the scientific and military world of, let's say, the United States of America. I don't know, sometimes writers think too fucking shallow and let go with the flow. I would call it unique, but since my brain is already a chaotically organized system of movements, I refuse to use the words clockwork mechanism anymore because only amateurs who barely know shit about watchmaking say that, it would trigger my thought about logic. But then again, Ruby does the exact same thing, and now I can care a lot less about what they do. I couldn't care enough about what Hekikai no Aion does either, because at least they're not as shallow as, I don't know, Nagiasu. Let's begin with Feng Shui Academy, the one manga that I'm already done with. Again, a boy named Ozuno, who I suspect came from the Ozuno clan of the Ninja Assassin movie, but unfortunately was raised by sentient giant spiders instead of an old man with shadowy powers, is one of the top students of Kusanagi High, a school of magical architecture, and goes on about his life fixing people's shit not by exterminating demons, but by transporting them back into their home world, because an architectural flop such as a diagonal facing wall is enough to teleport them into planet Earth by accident. I don't know how Feng Shui logic in this manga works, but I suspect that something as aesthetically pleasing as a diagonal wall is enough to make the Combine from Half-Life 2 feel ashamed. Anyways, Ozuno's linguistically and instantaneously perpetually annoying cat friend Kiara ends up finding someone's now deceased pet cat in a house, the owner having been deceased as well, and that a certain woman wanted the house to become dismantled, which I'm just gonna spoil because fuck you. In a climatic showdown, the woman who wanted to own the deceased cat owner's mansion grandly reveals that the deceased owner wanted to sell the building to an animal protection facility, and that the will is now torn into tiny pieces. That's fucking it. Also, why the fuck would she use a crossbow instead of, a suppressed handgun to pin Ozuno to the ground? Must be because Japanese gun laws require a long-ass licensing procedure which is longer than simply buying a hunting crossbow. Anyways, demon cat dies, woman gets sent into Shinto hell, Ozuno's rival, Sugaru, uses incense to let the dead appear before them, Ozuno cries a Crimean river and is stricken with grief because he killed a good guy, cat owner says he did otherwise, and that the two are finally united in the afterlife. The end. This ending caught me off guard, partially because I'm currently 17 and I'm still in need of excessive amounts of criticism and writing experience to reach Ben, I can assure you that he hates everybody Yahtzee cross-host level, and mostly because I was distracted by how shallow and dull the story went. Characters are dull, gritty, and unlikable, but good looking. The story's pacing is as straightforward as George Daniel's watchmaking book. No wasted words, just gives a terrible message that Feng Shui architecture should be and must be strictly applied to any and all buildings, no matter how generic and unorthodox it will make a forested structure look or work, and that urbanization of a city makes a country spiritually non-existent. Spirituality to me does not give any effect to something as childish as magic. I learned my view of magic from watching Winx Club and reading The Key of Solomon. Oh, and playing Toho games as well. Now let's look at Hekikai no Aion. Aion is made in 2008, and graphically it looks like it was made in 2006. And this is already being unfair to Feng Shui Academy, which was made in 2006, but at least FSA knew how to make its characters visually appealing by not giving the characters the funny fish eyes. You see, when I read some of the pages of Aion online, I saw that sometimes some of the characters give this disturbing gawp where they stare in mid-air or give the illusion that their eyes are separate from one another, like Sean Pertwee portrayed as Caesar in ancient Rome, The Rise and Fall of an Empire. It's distracting, and while it gave me a brief chuckle whenever I see one, as I stare longer, they begin to look disturbingly into my soul like they're coming out to get me. Moving on, Aion begins with Tatsuya having a Bruce Wayne moment when his father takes off his breeding mask and tells the boy to be a man of high caliber, which I assume is about being a high caliber, like a 7.62 NATO rifle. No, lame joke begin anew! There's a lot of things that Tatsuya has in common with Bruce Wayne. They both have dead parents, they're both humans, and they are both fucking rich, because how the hell are these kids going to take care of themselves if they're poor and down the street? And putting them in an orphanage would simply make it most impossible for the readers to relate with. Later on, a brief moment when this one girl gets bullied by another girl to the point where she seemingly dies from falling ends with the latter having resurrected from the dead like Captain fucking Scarlet and letting a giant black snake thing to eat the bully whole and consume that worm coming out of her ear. If this were real life, I would have vomited both my lunch and my breakfast because my traumatized guts decided to file a divorce against my inner ear. I won't spoil the rest because unlike Flying Spaghetti Academy, Aion actually does know how to make its characters interesting enough. Firstly, no sign of cookie electric pussies, and second, character personalities are a lot more noticeable and interesting. Fingering Speculum Accessories' main character is a generic boy who was hired from the most generic capital city of the Kingdom of Generic. I do wonder if they speak Basque. About that, other character personalities seem to be simply handpicked from other mangas or otherwise made up in the middle of shallow thinking, because the characters of Free Syrian Army, as well as his storyline, are shallow as fuck, fighting demons for the good of some negative religious view of modern-day urban societies. Pretty much the same reason why the actual Syrian rebel group fought against the government, except the government killed their own people to stop a simple fucking riot. All that Aion does is simply make a scene where each character is given a chance to show a lot about their personality. And that's good, you know. It allows for characters to show what they are deep inside while there's no action around. Seine lives in a cardboard box and loves getting stabbed up the brisket with a broken bottle and has absolutely no shame whatsoever. Tatsuya is a weak mama's boy who can only defeat his ear parasite infected frenemies by talking or otherwise kissing them. Nagisa is an all-time goody-goody and childhood friend of Tatsuya who is allergic to dogs and is therefore against the Animal Liberation Front I mentioned 8 paragraphs ago. Minato is a generic cool boy of the series. Shizuki and Yuzuki are siblings and took the Toho tradition of making the older siblings much weaker than the younger one. Shizuki being the smart ass and the one with glass bones and paper skin, and Yuzuki being the skin and bones equivalent of casket carrying one-hand heavy machine gun shooting Arnold Schwarzenegger. And Minagi is simply Tatsuya's cuddly first cousin once removed. All of them orders of magnitude more interesting than fart-smelling agents. Now, if I'm going to choose which one of the two mangas of this review gets the Golden Puppy Biscuit Award for Best Reviewed Thing of the Week, and which one wins the Shit in a Box of Chocolates Award for surprisingly shitty thing reviewed this week, it'd be Hekikai no Aion and fucking Spastic Assholes, respectively. So, congratulations for both of you for getting your award. And without further ado, I shall now go back to playing Covert Front or Painkiller before my body finishes switching my ballsack and my left pancreas around to be ready for the annual Christmas seppuku ritual.